So, do you want to try an intro?
It's Stinky Week on the show that I can't remember the name of, Football Ox podcast.
Well, we can just call it the FB Premier League show.
It's the FB Premier League show. We've got some awful predictions to get through. Hopefully, we'll have some more insightful ones for the upcoming week. So let's get into it.
Yeah! There you go. That was all the excitement needed for an intro. So, Matt, as you're leading this episode, perhaps you should kick us off with
I don't remember taking that mantle.
the starting predictions that we have to go over.
Well, so we'll just go from the top, shall we? So before this week,
Was
yeah.
it game week 10 or
So
11?
it was 11, yeah. So before that week, the scores were 20-24 to you. Fairly tight. Could swing on a week.
Talk about swinging.
Jesus.
Another
Jesus
photo.
Christ.
It's chaos today.
I
So I feel
It's
like
always
leaving this
happening, man.
all in just for people to have just so much stimulus that they're just like, what's going on?
Yeah. Right. 2024, and well, none of us gained many points. Fulham United was the first game. We both went with a draw. I went 1-1. You went 0-0. We both came pretty close.
Yeah.
But United got a goal late on and won 1-0, so we neither have got a point in that game.
I think it came out pretty much as we expected. It was a shit show. Neither team
Basically, yeah, it was tight. We both expected it to be
attacked
tight.
together. But
Yeah.
defended reasonably. And yeah, just I kind of said to you in the week that I wished I'd possibly sided with United just because they do tend to just nip a goal, even though
Yeah, like considering their quality, they've got players like Bruno Fernandes who scored a pretty nice goal. He's got that extra bit of quality that can swing a game like that.
Yeah, and we've seen throughout the season most of the games they've won has not been convincing. They've
No.
been shit, and it's just been
Yeah,
nick a goal here and there, and happen to get through the game. So
yeah,
I don't think we can feel too sad about that one. We kind of knew what was going to happen. We just didn't know exactly how many goals. We were
yeah. It's one of them where there was a lot of the results this week are them. Well, when we were going through them, we were aware of how tight they were and how difficult some of the games were to predict. And a lot of them are went for a draw, but the other team nicked a goal and all that.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of tight games. That was tight. United edged it. Brentford, West Ham. Again, tight game. I went for a 1-1 draw. You went for a 1-0 Brentford win. Brentford won 3-2.
Got a point at least.
So, yeah, you got a point.
Did you end
Not
up
as
putting Areola in your FPL? Or did you stick
no,
with Leno?
I went with Leno.
Oh, that was close then to getting some good points.
Did Areola get decent points?
No,
Did he get
as
saved?
in because they conceded 3. There's no way he would have got good points. Whereas
Oh
Leno,
right, yeah. No, Leno was the right choice. Yeah. So it wasn't as tight a game as we thought. I didn't watch it, so I don't know. I can't really comment.
yeah, I know it's difficult when you only do this sort of in your spare time. Is you don't
Yeah.
go through and watch every game, so you can talk
No,
about it.
but I mean, we can assume it wasn't that tight of a game, which we both expected it to be.
Well, I mean,
As
it kind of was, but it was tight more in who was going to score more goals rather
yeah,
than who
well,
was going
yeah,
to
we
concede
it was
the most.
tight as in two teams that generally defend quite well.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Can you
Not much
read
to say
anything
about it.
into the stats at all, or is it just
Um,
happened? Who cares?
I'm just trying to get them up.
Defend,
Yeah, I think
score.
is this did West Ham have a few players missing, which I forgot to factor into my prediction because I did know that Paqueta was out and maybe another of their midfielders or someone else. But yeah, I forgot to
Only
factor that in,
Zuma, I can see.
in before we did the predictions that could have could influence things. But I forgot about it when it came to predicting the game. But yeah, just a bit of a back and forth. I suppose they are two teams that do attack quite well as well if they've got space. seemed to like both teams had quite a lot of shots. Both teams had quite a few chances. So just an open game, which is not really what we were expecting at all. But
Yeah, well, I suppose with that kind of fixture, when you've got two teams that everyone expects to want to play counter-attacking football and hold a low block, all of a sudden, then when there is no sort of attacking team to play against, you've both got to come out of your shell a bit. And
yeah,
then if you're not used to
yeah,
playing that way, if you're not used to defending against another team that's not trying to come at you and not trying to give you space in behind to counter attack, sort of thing, then it's, I don't know, it's weird. Like you're probably not
yeah.
going to defend as well as
Early
you normally do.
goals as well. Like Brentford scored in the 10th minute or something, and then suddenly West Ham have to open up to get back in the game, and then the whole game opens up. So that kind of thing influences things sometimes.
Yeah, Brentford did hold a decent amount of possession, so it looked like they were more comfortable taking that role, holding the ball, but they probably didn't sort of progress it and play the kind of possession football that West Ham typically expect when they're sort of being dominated by someone else on the ball. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah, interesting game. It'll be definitely one that we can use going forward in the season if we come to a game where we've got two teams on sort of similar kind of form level that both like
yeah,
to play
true,
that
yeah,
style, where we can kind of
yeah,
think, okay, we've got precedent. What do we think is going to happen here?
yeah.
So yeah, definitely worth taking note of.
Um, so Burnley Palace. I went again 1-1 draw. Yeah, I went 1-1 draw in the first three fucking fixtures. Um, Palace won 2-0.
I think I went
Uh,
2-1 for that, didn't I?
you went 2-1. Yeah,
Yeah, I've started thinking I need to follow my own. Well, I haven't started thinking. I've been thinking this since we basically started doing this podcast, which is that I need to listen to myself more because I'll say things that sound about right and then go against them.
yeah. I
Like
mean, it is tricky, isn't it? It's hard not to doubt
yeah,
yourself.
yeah, like predicting something to happen that hasn't been happening. Don't predict it to happen until it starts happening, which is
Yeah.
Burnley scoring goals. They keep losing and not scoring goals, and I
Fuck,
keep expecting
they're
them to
shocking,
score
man.
a
Like
goal.
Burnley
Yeah,
might be well outside of Sheffield United, might be the worst team in the league at the moment. But even then, Sheffield United, which we'll come on to later, got a result. But Burnley just look really awful. Um,
yeah, they're just not
Again, like
pulling
so
it
much
together.
possession in that game,
Oh, well, for
but
Burnley,
yeah, 68%, but
Jesus.
less expected goals. They did create some chances, three big chances apparently, but not great in terms of XG. But plenty of possession, quite a few shots, but can't put it in the net, man.
Yeah, it'd be
Yeah,
interesting to find out exactly why that is. Like we had, if you look at just play styles again, you've got Burnley possession based, progressive team. Crystal Palace, you've got very defensively solid, counter attacking side that don't control the
yeah,
ball very well. One's doing a lot better than the other. In the current season, has a lot more Premier League history, recent Premier League history of success than the other. So
yeah,
just based on that, you kind of thought, well, Crystal Palace is going to be the team on top here. Then you've got Burnley trying to play like they're the better team. You know, if you can do that in many ways, but let's just say for the sake of this argument that the team with possession and progressive style of play is the typical better team. If that's the case, and they're not as good, and Crystal Palace are set up purely to play against the possession side and get goals on the counter attack, or just essentially nick goals when the momentum's with Burnley and they're not defending as tightly. This was always going to sort of happen, if you know what I mean. I'm
yeah,
surprised, based on those things, maybe that it wasn't more in favour of Crystal Palace, but at the same time, there's always football and it's many variables, and you're like, well, they're at home, and yada yada yada. So yeah, I think it was a pretty straightforward game to call, but yeah, hindsight's always a blessing, I guess.
yeah. I mean, yeah. To be fair, I do think like you say, one of these teams has been in the Premier League a long time, so there is a mismatch in just quality of players. Like Palace have got quite an established squad. They've got good individuals, especially in defence. So, while Burnley had loads of possession, they didn't create super clear cut chances. And that probably is a bit of a reflection on the fact that Palace just have better players in defence than Burnley do. in attack, and then on the counter, Palace are a threat because they got decent players. But I don't know whether it's like maybe naivety again with Burnley, something that everyone seems to always talk about, that they've got this play style that they're very rigidly sticking to. Um, that maybe they need to modify
Yeah,
because
it's an interesting one. I was going to ask you about this. Like, do you think Company needs to change his philosophy temporarily just to keep them in the league, or do you think it's a matter of tweaking here and there, putting more
I
belief in the
think
players, and just
I think
being more
tweaking,
consistent?
because changing your entire philosophy is going to be as much of a problem as it is sticking with the same one. I think because you're midway through a season, like you don't really have time to establish an entirely new style of play, and that like all the players they've signed and stuff all buy into the philosophy. Like I think the philosophy and the idea behind how a team plays being established is quite important, but
Mm.
you have got to have pragmatism as well. Um, like Emery's a good example at Villa, where he's got like clear ideals, but he's very pragmatic and he tweaks depending on who he's playing. And Burnley could definitely do with a bit of that. Like they just need to acknowledge that they've got weaker players than a lot of the teams they're playing, and so when they come up against Palace, it's good that they have confidence in themselves to have 70% possession. But then they need to be aware that Palace have really good defenders, so they might need to attack in a slightly different way because Palace are going to defend their box really well. And if Burnley get to the byline, that's all well and good, but crosses aren't necessarily going to be super effective. And then when it comes to conceding goals, they've got to be a bit pragmatic about the fact that if they have loads of possession, the whole team gets up into the Palace half. There's going to be loads of space there, and Palace have good attackers that can put the ball in the net. I think it's just a little bit of pragmatism is needed, not an overhaul.
Yeah, I think it could be a man management thing as well, getting the idea into these players' heads that they're not coming up against, like, this is a weird concept maybe, but in each individual game, like, you're not coming up against Crystal Palace, you're not coming up against Villa, you're not coming up against City, you're coming up against 11 blokes managed by another bloke, right? And if you can get the better of these 11 blokes on the day, then you can win. And with the
Yeah,
skill level out there on the pitch, while in Premier League terms there might be a big difference, in football terms in general it's a very, very small difference. So on any given day, given the right belief, etc., etc., a set of 11 men can beat a set of 11 men if
yeah,
they do the right things on the pitch on the day.
yeah,
So, it's not beyond imagination that Company can turn this around, doing what he's doing, with just more belief in the squad, or just um, better leadership or something like that. That maybe that could be a missing cog
yeah.
in the
I
system
do think
there.
that's a factor because, like, especially when it comes to scoring goals, if a team doesn't have a lot of confidence, then you just don't get those moments. Like you don't hit that shot first time when you should, or you fluff the pass, stuff like that.
Yeah,
Where confidence is a big factor in just getting the ball in the back of the net. And obviously they're lacking in confidence. Very inexperienced team in terms of Prem experience. Like I'm looking at the squad and I don't even think any of that first 11 have played in the Premier League before except Jay Rodriguez.
yeah,
Um, so it's kind of, yeah, it's there. And so the mentality thing is obviously a factor as well. Yeah,
yeah.
bit of
No, it
both.
certainly
But I
could.
don't think it's out of the question that they improve. I think they will, but yeah, they need to kind of do it soon because otherwise they get cut adrift. Like they're on 4 points, they're just going to get stuck if they're
Yeah, I
not
mean, if you just take
going
it
to
like,
improve fast.
if you just thought up steps or goals for them, baby steps, like first few games in the Premier League, it's get a result, score some goals,
Yeah,
just prove that we can play at this level, sort of thing. Whether we're
yeah,
going to win or not, it's different. Then perhaps the next goal was like, all right, we want to see, after those first 3 or 4 games, whatever, if we can nick a result here or there, just to get a foothold, can we start implementing our style of play on teams consistently? Which means keeping the ball, creating chances, holding them, having zones of control on the pitch. And to be honest, for the most part, they are doing that. So that's step. I can't remember if they got any good results in the first few games. I think they got at least a draw. Did they?
well, they've had a win somewhere. They've had a win and a draw.
Yeah.
I can't remember where the win was,
But I
but
don't know if it's in those first sort of 3 or 4 games. But they've come out of step two. They're essentially in step two right now. If that was to be their step-by-step plan, not saying that it is, but they're now being able to implement their style of play. They're playing possession football. They're playing progressive attacking football, They're controlling large zones of the pitch against smaller opponents. Even not necessarily that small opponents. Crystal Palace, while relative to some clubs in the Premier League, they might be a small club. They've still got 26,000 seater stadium, a,
Yeah, they're very
Premier League
established. Yeah,
side that have been in the Premier League for a few years now in London. They've got a lot of talent available to them. They've got a lot of fans available to them. It's not a small club, so to go and play that way and implement your style on a experienced team like that are, usually when you see Crystal Palace throughout the season, you don't think of them. Oh, they've got a great system. They've got a great philosophy. You just think, oh, they've
no,
got some cool players and they get results. Like that's what it's about. So
yeah,
you know, to go and take a team like that and dominate them to an extent on the ball, it's showing that the philosophy works. Now maybe there needs to be tweaks. Now maybe it is a mentality thing. Maybe it's a personnel thing. Somewhere there's a cog missing where the goals aren't being scored and the results aren't coming. But you can see the philosophies taking place step by step. You're
yeah,
getting to where you want to go. So yeah, I think we're agreed on that. Burnley, I'm not too worried about them. They could be in a relegation scrap by the end of the year for sure, obviously. But I think, as we said, we'd keep company anyway. We'd keep everything going
yeah,
as it is and just come back up.
yeah,
But we don't want to
yeah.
talk about relegation every bloody episode. So next game.
We've got Everton Brighton. You actually got the result right.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I thought there'd be more goals in this one.
yeah, you went 2-2. It ended 1-1. I went 3-1 Brighton. So I was way off.
Although this
Um,
week, Brighton versus Sheffield United,
mm,
I'm excited for.
there's a few tasty ones this week. There's a
Yeah.
few where I'm looking at them. I'm thinking there could be teams around us slipping up, provided we don't fucking slip up again.
Or I mean, yeah, Brighton could catch if we can't beat Fulham. But I think we should beat Fulham. If Fulham can only put up like what was it, zero point 0.6 or zero point 0.8 xg and not score a goal at home against United, then what they're going to do away against Villa, I think not much, right? So
Uh, yeah, I'm not worried about them scoring really. I'm worried about us not breaking down teams again. But
yeah,
anyway,
but
we'll get
you
onto that
say
shit.
this, but yeah, oh well, yeah, we'll move on to that. We'll move on to that. But yeah,
So Everton Brighton was finished 1-1. Brighton had 80% of the ball,
yeah, yeah, fair
but
enough.
created less XG, had less shots. Yeah, pretty poor from Brighton, judging on the stats.
Mm. They're a bit of a sort of reverse bogey side for some teams like us and Everton. They just seem to be
Yeah,
gettable,
yeah.
get atable.
Um, I think it's maybe says a bit more about Everton really. Like they've obviously got themselves so organised defensively that they're happy at home to concede that much of the ball
Yeah,
and still confident that they can get a result and like have more shots, have more chances than Brighton. They're obviously very very organised in defence.
yeah. I think
Um,
Deitch has got like his original Burnley upgraded now. He's
yeah,
got them all understanding what he wants. He's got belief throughout the squad, and he's just got that little bit better personnel. So I think, yeah, we won't see them being as bad a relegation scrap perhaps this year as we might have expected.
yeah, no, they look good. They look good. Not too much to say about it really. I mean, Brighton stumbled again. They seem to be stumbling a little bit, but
Well, I did say before the build up to this game, when do we consider Brighton not as good as they were? Is it
yeah, I
is it
think it's still too early to
now?
tell.
Is it 2 games ago, or is it in another 2 games if they don't get another result? If they don't get a result against Sheffield United, then it's really time to say, okay, what
Yeah,
what's happening
yeah, I
here?
think it's still too early to tell just because they are still like seventh in the table, which is where you'd expect them to be more or less. So even though they've had a few iffy results recently, they're still, as long as they're still where we roughly expected them to be, you can't really say um, they've regressed too much. I guess like maybe the expectations of Brighton were a bit elevated based on the fact they finished the season really strongly
Yeah,
last season. Whereas over the course of the entire season, they've finished sixth, and they're now in seventh. So you can't say they've regressed that much. I think it's still a bit early, but yeah, if they continue in this vein, then it definitely looks like whether it's teams sussing them out, whether it's like their squad, they've sold a few players and they've not got quite the same level of players in, whether it's depth, Europe, blah blah blah. But yeah, if they continue like this for much longer, you're gonna have to start saying that they look like they're
Yeah.
having some
Well,
issues.
it's kind of where my prediction came from in managing to get that result right. Was I looked one at Everton and said, well, they're not losing many games. They're getting a few decent results. They look pretty solid, but still, I'm not going to go and say they're like on for a top half finish or anything. Certainly not. But they don't look like a relegation side, which we thought they might
Yeah,
do. They look like a solid Crystal Palace, sort of West Ham, Brentford kind of side, almost. Step down from that, getting there, where they're able to essentially hold a really, really solid defensive line in a low block and be super, super disciplined and organised in defence, and then use the pace, physicality, and size they've got in the team to overwhelm their opponents when they do decide to attack. And it just works at the moment in the Premier League. A few teams are doing it, and it just does work. So I kind of looked at that and said, well, I don't think they're going to lose, at least. Then there was the result they got away from Brighton at the end of last season. Was it 5-1 away or
yeah,
something like that?
yeah,
And then it was kind of that sort of same thinking again of, well, I'm not going to predict something to happen that hasn't happened. So
yeah.
we see Brighton stumbling, so I just went, okay, Brighton score a lot of goals. Everton scored a lot of goals against them last time. I'm just going to go for a big hitter draw. And maybe I didn't get the big hitter, but at least the result came.
Yeah, well, that's the weird thing about the game, really, is that Brighton barely created a chance, um, which is like where we've seen them stumble before. It's usually been their defense has let them down. They've always created chances. Sometimes it's been their lack of clinicalness because some of their attackers aren't that clinical. Like they've got a lot of young players, blah blah blah. But like this game's a bit of an outlier because they literally barely created a chance. They had everything was still in place in terms of the fact that they completely controlled the ball, but they barely created a chance, which is an interesting one.
Is Solly March out at the moment?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
could be to do with it.
yeah. I mean, they do have a lot of rotation. Like their midfield, yeah, so their team was Gilmore, Lallana, Gross, Matoma, Ferguson, and Adingra, which is kind of fine on paper, but sort of not maybe not familiar with each other. Those players.
Yeah, I'm not
Um,
sure. When it comes to the squad, like I think you mentioned a couple of moments ago about the expectations being so high for Brighton based on how they finished last year. We completely have like this skewed perception of Brighton that they can sort of almost do no wrong and that they are this perfectly run club. But I think people still forget that like their success in the Premier League has only been very very recent, kind of like Newcastle's and Villa's, and it can just as easily fall away as it came.
yeah,
Obviously,
yeah,
with certain systems in place and managers, you'd say the likes of Brighton are more likely to continue with their success than, say, a Sheffield United or a Wolves did in the past. In the last few seasons, because we've seen a number of times, especially when teams get promoted to the Premier League, like Sheffield and Wolves, etc., have done, is they've managed to within 2 seasons make their way up into those sort of Europa League kind of spots by playing this defensively solid football that eventually gets sort of found out in a way and teams realise how to break them down and they sort of drop back. Whereas Brighton, they didn't have that initial jump up the league when they joined. It's taken a few years and they've started to get the ball rolling and get better and better. And I think people just have under sort of appreciate how quick it's sort of happening compared to larger timescales where Brighton finished that place in the league sort of 10 years in a row, maybe sixth or fifth. Then when they finish seventh, it's all of a sudden a much bigger deal. Or when they lose a couple of games, it's a much bigger deal. And as
mm,
well, with the way they've lost players, like people always think Brighton, oh, they're so perfect at their recruitment, etc. But those kind of things will have a big impact on any club. Just the fact that Brighton managed to sort of deal with those kinds of losses in the last couple of years and come back better was more of a not. I won't say it's a fluke, but it's not as a sustainable and not something that you can probably do consistently with longevity to perfectly
yeah.
replace players every
I
year.
think with that as well, the further up the table you get, the harder it becomes. Like when they're a team finishing between say 15th and 10th in the Premier League, and they're getting poached for 5 players each year, replacing replacing players to finish 10th to 15th or mid-table in the Premier League is a lot easier than replacing players that are finishing 6th in the Premier League. Like they had an especially good crop of players last season, and replacing those players, the further up you get, the higher level you get to, the more difficult it is to find replacements at the same level. Um, so yeah, maybe a bit of a drop off in Brighton. So next game is City Bournemouth,
Oh yeah,
which uh,
the most annoying game.
fuck. I triple captained Haaland,
Yep, I
so my
captained him
triple
as well.
captain's gone. I feel justified in the fact that they won 6-1. I feel like I can, even though it's fucking annoying that I wasted my
Yeah,
triple captain, I feel rest assured that actually it was probably the right decision because there's not many weeks where they score 6 goals and Haaland's not involved heavily, but he just wasn't involved in the first half, went off fucking injured. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, not a good game for FPL. We both guessed that City would win pretty comfortably. I went 3-0, you went 4-1. Yeah, not much to say about that. I mean,
yeah.
Bournemouth
Well,
are never getting anywhere near
it
that
kind
game,
of
are they?
happened as expected. City tore them apart. I did mention. I don't know if I mentioned on the pod, but City normally like to play. They score a lot of their goals centrally, and a lot of their build-up play comes from that left-hand side. So if we just sort of were making transfers on FPL, for example, for just week by week, you might have looked at that and gone, well, Doku's a really, really good shout for this game because he's going to play off that left-hand side against a smaller club. He's going to get a lot of the ball, a lot of freedom to run at them. He probably will get some points. But when
Yeah,
you've just done a wild card, for example, or you're well into the season and you don't necessarily know whether Doku's going to play every game or
yeah,
whether he's going to be uh, productive in every game, it's really hard to put him in. But
yeah,
yeah, I mean, he proved everything we thought about him, right? I think with that, it was just insane.
yeah. He just went on a mad one, didn't he? He's just,
Yeah, the fact that he's
yeah,
two-footed, physical, pacey,
yeah.
technical,
It's when
powerful.
he's got that bit of space. When he receives the ball in a bit of space, Bournemouth obviously dropping off, then he's just like absolutely impossible to deal
Yeah,
with, isn't
he's
he?
so
Um,
good.
yeah, damn.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
and
it's funny because
we were nearly going for him as well. That was
I know.
yeah.
I
Don't
think, but
fuck it
maybe
up,
that might have been one of those rumors that was always out of our league in reality. Like
possibly. Yeah,
considering the level he is at, and considering the fact the City actually signed him, it was maybe one of those things where we got linked, but in reality, he was always going to go to a bigger club because people who were watching him knew that uh, he was like explosive. Um, yeah, Silva got a couple of goals. Bernardo Silva's like made quite a big difference, I think, in City because he injured
yeah,
for a while or something,
yeah.
but
He
he's
had a
back
bit of an
now.
injury, but it's the
Yeah,
likes of him
upset
and
game.
Rodri that make that team tick.
Yeah,
And now they're coming back into the side, especially if City have some harder fixtures coming up. They'll probably look, as we've spoken about before, for that control with Grealish and Bernardo Silva. So Doku's probably not even that good a shout to bring into the side, despite the week he's just had.
I know.
Um,
Yeah, I still wouldn't transfer him in because you just don't know when he's going to play as well. Because like they play Grealish quite a lot still in games which are tighter. I think they trust Grealish more in terms of his ability to retain possession and slow the game down so that they can wait for the overlaps. And maybe Docky wouldn't get as much space initially receiving the ball against a team that is better and presses higher up the pitch or whatever. But
yeah,
so like I still don't even Docky just got 4 assists and a goal in one game, but I still wouldn't trust the fact that he's going to start every week, which is mad. But
yeah, it's crazy. Maybe we're going to end up shooting ourselves in a couple of weeks' time
probably,
when he scores three
yeah,
hat tricks in a row.
yeah,
We're just like,
probably,
what are we doing? It was so obvious we should have signed him.
yeah. I
Um,
know. That's what Pep does to you with his rotation. He gets in your head and makes you
yeah,
do stupid things.
I know. He's a crazy, crazy man.
Uh, yeah.
I think,
So
yeah, we'll probably won't see him play much more, so it's not coming in. But overall, City did what we expected City to do.
pretty
Bournemouth
much.
did get the one goal that I thought they'd get, but unfortunately, yeah, it doesn't matter because City still
City got an
scored
extra few.
six.
Yeah.
So yeah, next game is
Sheffield United, Wolves, another. Another bloody weird one. Weird results everywhere this week, to be honest.
What was the result here? Was it 2-1 Sheffield? Or was it?
2-1 Sheffield United. Yeah, Archer scored a banger,
Yeah,
um,
saw that.
and then they got a late penalty, which was a dodgy penalty, to be honest.
Was Hwang Hee-chan
Um,
involved for Wolves? I believe he was.
I think he scored.
Yeah.
No, no, he didn't.
Did he not? I thought he
No, he
did.
got an assist. Yeah, he got an
Okay.
assist for the goal.
FPL, go on.
So I went for 0-0. You went for 2-1 Wolves. Ended 0-0. So neither ended 2-1 Sheffield United. So neither has
Yeah.
got any points.
No one was going to
Um,
predict that. I don't think Wolves have been playing really, really well at the moment.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, just out of nowhere,
Well, I
Archer and
think.
Norwood just.
I mean, they got lucky. To be fair, like they've got an expected goals of 1 for this game, but they had a penalty. So actually, they had expected goals of about point 0.1. Um,
Yeah, I think was it 0.25?
I think a penalty is like point 0.8 something,
Oh, I think it was
something like
0.75 for a penalty.
that.
Anyway,
Anyway, yeah. So Sheffield United didn't really create anything. They had much less possession. Archer scored an absolute banger, which wasn't even a chance. I think I went 0-0, and I think my reasoning was partly that Wolves Neto is injured. So I felt like Wolves were always going to struggle slightly without Neto, but yeah, it just seems like Wolves didn't really create much either. To be fair, it was a tight game in terms of
yeah, it's
shots
just
and
so
in terms of
surprising
chances.
because you look at Wolves and you see how they've performed the last few weeks against various sides, and you just think Sheffield United have been by far and away the worst team in the league. Terrible defensively. You'd think
Yeah,
Wolves, even if it was just Hwang Hee-chan and Mateus Cunha, for example, or Sasha Kalajdzic, would be more than capable of beating this Sheffield United side. Like think back to maybe like a year ago or whatever. Mateus Cunha was playing somewhat regularly at Atletico Madrid. Sasha Kalajdzic was starting for Wolfsburg, I believe, scoring 15 goals, 16 goals a
yeah,
season. And then Hwang Hee-chan has been a reasonable contributor at Wolves pretty much since he's been there, and even better now. You'd think coming into this game, just knowing that and the fact that Sheffield United's conceded 8 against Newcastle at home, you'd be like, surely Wolves can score at least a couple goals here. But as football always does, it surprises us because
yeah.
these little intricacies can change how things turn out.
I think Sheffield United being at home gives them a bit of a boost, possibly, um, and I think without Neto, Wolves. I think it's kind of the case of it's not that the rest of their attackers are poor,
Yeah,
but their attack's kind of geared around Neto, so they have to change the kind of entire way they build up when they don't play with him, maybe. So it could have been a case of just things not clicking with them, even though the personnel's not bad. They're just missing a really focal point of their attack, so it might have been something to do with that.
yeah, could well be.
Yeah,
As we've
yeah,
mentioned multiple times already, just today, when you've got two teams that like to defend and they're put against each other, it becomes this strange battle of who wants the ball because I don't.
yeah.
um, what was the possession stats in the end? I'm imagining Wolves had quite a bit and just struggled to break them down.
60%, so
So
pretty dominant.
probably was a
Um,
case of Wolves being caught in an unfamiliar situation and just not being able to capitalise on it.
Probably, yeah. They're a team that's designed to play on the counter a little bit. So yeah, they're probably a little bit uncomfortable. And yeah, in terms of shots and shots on target, like it's pretty even. So um, maybe Sheffield United just fucking defended well for no
Yeah,
reason.
just just decided to turn it on.
Yeah,
Who knows?
and yeah, managed to create something on the counter.
Yeah,
So yeah, just a weird one really. And another weird one: Newcastle beat Arsenal 1-0. Not actually that weird, to be fair.
yeah, wasn't
Um,
weird. Very
the way it played
controversial.
out was a bit controversial. Did you watch it?
I did not. I did see the highlight of the goal though, and I did see about 3 or 4 different things where I was like, oh god.
Yeah, goal was very controversial.
Yeah.
There was Havertz tackle, which was uh, they gave it as a yellow. Could have definitely been a red.
Mm.
Bruno Guimaraes elbowed someone in the face. Didn't get a red for it. Um, yeah, it was a scrappy game. It was kind of one of them, which is like really heated,
Yeah.
really really cagey. I went 2-0 Arsenal. You went 1-0 Arsenal. So I think we both thought it was going to be tight. Like I think we both thought that Arsenal are a good defensive team, Newcastle are a good defensive team. Neither team's going to want to lose. But I guess we both thought Arsenal would edge it, but they didn't.
Yeah, yeah. Generally my thoughts about the game were they're both probably about similarly as good at scoring goals. You know, maybe not this season down when you look at the stats, but generally over the last say like 6 months or so, they've been about as good
Yeah,
as each other at scoring goals. But this year especially, I see Arsenal's the better defensive side, whereas Newcastle were last year. So that puts them at a place of it's probably about even again because if you look at the wider period, Newcastle were the better defensive side, and if you look at the slightly shorter period, then Arsenal are the better defensive side. Then put them together, and you're essentially just betting on a complete unknown as to who's going to come out on top.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, it's one of those. Sometimes you get it wrong. What were the XG and possession and things like that? Top
So
line
Arsenal
stats.
dominated the ball 60%, which you would expect.
Yeah,
Um,
probably. Yeah.
I think Newcastle. It seems like Newcastle just played it quite well. They let Arsenal have the ball. I mean, Arsenal are a better team at keeping the ball anyway.
Yeah.
But they had an XG of 1. Arsenal had an XG of 0.57. Arsenal had a load of shots, but only one on target. Newcastle had a few less shots, but more big chances. So
Yeah.
they clearly were just happy to trust their defence and play on the counter, which does actually suit them considering the players they've got and the fact that Arsenal are good at, at holding onto the ball anyway. So it seems like Newcastle just played it
Yeah,
smartly,
played it
really.
right. Yeah, I think this is there's
Um,
a little bit of an advantage of the likes of Newcastle, Villa, West Ham, that sort of type of side. When coming up against other big teams or bigger sides, we might say in current culture, um, that they have this history of being somewhat mediocre. So the fans aren't as insistent and expectant on attacking
mm,
football all the time. And so Newcastle can then come into this game and have the humility to say, do you know what, we think Arsenal will probably be better at controlling the ball, or they'll probably do this, that, and the other better. So we'll change our typical game plan and we'll do what works best against these kind of sides. We'll do a Brentford or a West Ham and we'll sit back and we'll wait for our opportunities. And the better side you are that can play that way and still be effective going forward, the more chance you have of beating pretty much anyone.
yeah,
So fair enough to him.
yeah. Do you think Arsenal have got a bit of a problem scoring goals at the moment?
Yes, a little bit. I think it's mostly down to their build-up. I think it could be down to Rice just not being as great a sort of tiki-taka player as maybe people thought. He'll still get there, I'm sure, and he's super, super solid defensively and just keeping hold of the ball. But I don't think he can break through a midfield kind of way,
No.
the way I think Arsenal really want him to be able to. Which means a lot of their play gets channeled down the wings. I've talked about this, I think, with you before, especially down Saka's side, which, when they're on getting the better of teams, is a good thing because Saka's their best attacker. So, funneling the ball to him to make something happen in the final third is not necessarily a bad thing. But especially when other players aren't necessarily able to contribute, like Martinelli and Trossard have been virtually non-existent this year. When you're constantly funneling all the play down the right hand side, especially coming up against a team that is defensively solid and you're not getting the better of them, it makes you very one dimensional and very easy to predict.
Mm,
So that's the only thing I would say about that. They do need to figure out some way of negating either the need for central penetration or just varying up the side of the pitch they attack more. If they constantly get funneled down the right hand side to Saka, doesn't matter how good Saka is, more often than not he's going to get stopped because the opposition know where the ball's going. It's pretty simple. But
yeah, I
to answer the
think
question, I'd say I'm not worried.
no, yeah, because I was just looking at their recent results and like they obviously beat Sheffield United 5-0 a couple of weeks ago, but Sheffield United, they beat Sevilla last night, or the night before in Champions League 2-0.
Yeah,
Um, so I think it's not really enough of a trend yet, but they have had injuries to be fair with. Gabriel Jesus and Odegaard as well. I think Odegaard is a big factor in that Saka getting isolated on the right hand side. Odegaard kind of plays in that half space between the centre of the pitch and the wing, and he links with Saka really well. And Odegaard's been out for the last few games, so that's going to have an impact, I
Well,
think.
he's been reduced in his effectiveness as well. 'Cause what also is kind of happening because Rice isn't as amazing at central penetration and building up as perhaps Arsenal wanted him to be straight away. They keep playing the likes of Jorginho more to try and create
Yeah,
that kind of central penetration. And obviously, you still got your inverted fullback in Zinchenko often playing. So him and Jorginho are sat in there, which means there's one less space for another midfielder. And if you've got perhaps those two players sat at base, Rice a bit further forward or somewhere, offset from the central area where those two are, you don't necessarily have that sort of in between guy like Xhaka was to stand between the lines and create more space for Odegaard, drawing players away from him.
yeah,
If you've got those two players there in Jorginho and Zinchenko, and they're supposed to be your sort of base layer of build up, if they're moving it up to Rice and Rice isn't in space, he's not getting the ball forward because that's not his skill set, that's not his game, right? And so if you're going straight to Odegaard from your DMs, he needs again a lot of space to then be able to
yeah,
create something or a lot of support. So it's just not really worked for them in that way. And if the ball's coming to him from Saka, who the ball's going to a lot, who's cutting inside quite a lot to give the ball to Odegaard, that's a repetition of play that teams can see and can stop. And so I think that's been partly why Odegaard has not had as much of an influence this season as he probably should do. Because I think one of the ways you can sort of justify it is when we look at Villa this season, we've noticed that we don't really seem to have a bias towards any type of goal, any type of creation, other than being direct. We
yeah,
don't sit on the right, we don't sit on the left. We're not constantly obsessed with getting it through the middle. We play the game as we see it, and we go where the space is, which tends to be quite variable in each game. And no matter which side of the pitch we go down, and how we try and create an attack, we're still creating chances, which means we're harder to predict, harder to defend against, and more consistently scoring goals. And I don't think Arteta's stupid. I think he'll find a way to get round his current problems, and I think they will score plenty of goals this season. So
yeah. I think it's yeah, they've maybe got something that they've got to work out, but yeah, it's not really enough for Trend yet, and they've definitely got the personnel in terms of the manager and the players to figure it out. So,
yeah.
um, right, we've got three juicy games now.
Oh yeah.
Start with the shit Villa result.
Oh. Oh.
Uh, yeah,
Oh.
watch it. So
But the thing is, we didn't play bad. That was what was so frustrating about it. We were playing
yeah,
maybe not our best game, but we played reasonably well in terms of controlling the game, moving the ball forward, starting to try and create opportunities. We just didn't have the final ball. And then when it came to Nottingham, they virtually did nothing apart from score a perfectly placed goal outside of the box. When I say perfectly placed, I don't just mean it went in the corner, like it perfectly avoided every player that was in front of him as well,
yeah,
unsighting
yeah,
Martinez, so that even if he could get there, he wasn't getting there. And then, yeah, an absolute howler from Martinez. Another long shot. Don't even know if it was going in, but Martinez saves it but doesn't save it.
yeah,
Bit of a weird one. Um, we know he's got a howler in him, but he does so much that it's just like not even worth
yeah. I mean,
talking
that's
about.
just one of them. I mean,
Yeah,
keepers just occasionally make errors. That's not really anything to worry about.
yeah. I guess it
Um,
was a little frustrating that we couldn't overcome that home crowd and that resilience that they were showing, and we couldn't
yeah,
at least score. Because I think what is that the first game we've not scored in under Emery, or but one of the
in the
few.
league, yeah, I think we didn't score against Everton in the cup earlier on in the season, but
We
pretty
did,
sure
but
that's the only
it was
game we've
two
not
one
scored in
that one.
the league. Everton.
Yeah, it was 2-1.
Oh,
That's
was
why.
it? Oh, yeah, might be then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh wait, no, I think we might have lost 1-0 to United last season.
Yeah, we
towards the
did.
end.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, it's not been many games where we've not scored a goal, and it's just a shame to see that even though we did dominate the game and we were the better of the two sides, that we couldn't at least score a goal. You know, the way we conceded could happen to anyone on any given day. So you know, it's hard to come away from that game feeling any kind of worry or stress about
yeah,
going forward. But
yeah,
it is just frustrating.
yeah. I think that's it, really, isn't it? It's like not actually anything to worry about because we dominated the ball. We had more shots, more chances, more expected goals. Like I only watched the highlights, but like there were definitely a few chances. Like Watkins had that header that you know, good bloody chance, should have scored.
Mm.
Like definitely to seemed to create enough to to at least score a goal. We had 10 fucking corners, man.
Yeah, it was
Um,
crazy.
and like yeah, they 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 just scored 2 goals that like wouldn't happen on another day, you know.
Yeah, I think
Um,
this is kind of how they tend to go about it. You said immediately after the game when we spoke, you know, other teams far greater than our current
yeah,
history would
so
suggest have gone there and lost. So
City drew their last season. Arsenal lost their last season. I think Liverpool lost their last season. So their home form is good. They haven't lost at home this season. Their home form last season basically kept them up.
yeah,
But they are a hard team to play away, and it is because they nick a goal on the counter, which is what they did. The annoying thing about it is that it wasn't even like a good goal. Like once they go 1-0 up, that immediately becomes a really hard game. But it was just a good long shot that, like I said, doesn't happen in another week. It's like if that doesn't
yeah,
go in, it's completely different. But they get a good goal that's not lucky, but that wouldn't happen every week. And then yeah, they're a really really hard team to break down at
yeah.
home once
I
they're a goal up.
I think the
So
reason it's so frustrating as well is because of the way those goals were scored. You know,
yeah,
any team can technically nick a goal on the counter, but there are certain games where your ability to defend that or not defend it can make you feel very different ways. Like if we played that game against West Ham at home and we drew 3-3 because yeah we were scoring goals but we couldn't handle them on the counter, then you'd come away from it being kind of worried about us defensively.
yeah,
Whereas when it happens the way it's happened, you're just like they didn't really deserve that though, which is
yeah. It wasn't like we
you know
especially did anything wrong, and it wasn't like they attacked particularly
yeah it's not like they
effectively.
opened us up and had
No,
us clutching at straws as to how the hell we're gonna
no.
stop them from scoring. It was just oh that's happened, and then oh that's happened as well. Just
Yeah,
frustrating.
yeah. So bit of a
Oh, I
shit
mean,
game
yeah.
for
Well,
us,
I
but
went for a 2-0 win. You went for a
2-1
yeah. So we
win. I
both
think
rolled on
deep
that one.
down, like I did have a bit of a feeling. So I was looking at putting some bets on before the game, and I bet on Villa to have more corners in the game because I thought we'd just dominate.
Yep, you
I
got
won
that
the
one.
corner bet pretty safely, but then I was thinking, do I bet on Villa to win? I was in the back of my mind, something was telling me not to because I did have a feeling that just because they're a really good team at home, I had a feeling that like it wasn't it wasn't a banker. It wasn't like Luton at home the other week. Like it was definitely potential to slip up there, and we did. So yeah, both got on wrong. Uh, Luton Liverpool, another one that threw everyone off.
Yeah, I wish I watched this, man. I wish I'd watched it.
Yeah, I caught the. Did I? Did I? No, I don't think I did watch this. Did I catch the end? Can't remember.
I normally would
Um,
have, but after that Villa game, I was like, no more football today.
yeah, fucking yeah, crazy. I mean, 75% possession Liverpool, 3 expected goals.
3.
I
Wow.
mean, yeah. I mean, it's not like, to be fair, Luton created 1 expected goals,
Yeah.
and the game finished 1-1. So, you know, Liverpool obviously underperformed their XG, but I think Luton must have defended well. I mean,
Yeah.
fuck, did you?
When you look at the goals or the shots, does it look like there were loads blocked, or was there a lot of saves? Like what kind of game were we looking at?
Um, I don't know how to. I'm on FOTMob.
If you just look at saves, that'll tell us something.
So Luton keeper only made 6 saves.
That's quite a lot of saves, to be fair.
Uh, it's quite a few, but Allison made 5.
Fair, but that's an interesting game then. So we're looking
I
at
think. Well,
Liverpool creating a lot of opportunities, having a lot of possession, so breaking down that low block, but it being so tight in such a small stadium on such a small pitch with such a good atmosphere, I guess, that they
yeah,
just
I think
struggle to
that
get the ball over the
the
line.
stats are basically, yeah, they're suggesting that Luton defended their 6 yard box basically, and even if you get shots on target and chances in that area when it's that tight, you've always got bodies in the way. You're shooting off balance. You're shooting uh, without like setting yourself properly. That kind of thing. Like seems like Luton just restricted the space in the box really well. Um, Liverpool they did have a load of shots in the box, but they also had quite a few from long range, which suggests they were just getting frustrated at not being able to
Yeah, absolutely.
do
It's still
anything.
quite surprising sometimes that Liverpool aren't better than they are when they get into these situations, because you see
Yeah,
when City get into these situations, they just keep playing their game, they keep going. Sometimes they nick it, sometimes it ends in a draw, and everyone's like, "Oh, City should have won that." Whereas with Liverpool, they still, even though they're supposed to be these mentality monsters, they still can be sort of pulled off track, if you like, into this way of getting
yeah.
frustrated and start hitting them from range and potentially
I
not
think
playing the
it's
way they should.
the personnel thing. Like comparing them to when they won the Champions League and they were like the best team in Europe. Uh, their attack now, whereas then it would have been what Mane, Salah, Firmino.
Yeah,
Now you've got Salah, Nunez, and Jota, and so they haven't. In terms of a game like this where they are trying to break down a really compact defense, maybe they're lacking that creativity that Firmino gave them. Whereas
I have to,
Jota and
yeah.
Nunez are both quite
Saboshly
direct players.
really should be making up for that. I don't know, because as you said, when you've got a low block, a really low block, like 6 yard level defending, like Luton probably would have had in this game. It's annoying to have to talk about it without watching it, but we'll just say they did. Um, any you just expect any side to struggle against that, and to create 3 xG suggests they had the creativity there. They were finding the players in the box
True.
in the right
Yeah.
positions, but they
I
just couldn't
mean,
get it
well,
over the line.
again, I think Nunez missed an absolute stinker. Like 4 yards out, half volley, skied it. So that's where probably like nearly one of their XG will have come from that one chance.
Yeah,
I think Nunez is one of those players where he probably had a good game, but he probably also cost them the game at the same time somehow. Where he can play really well, but he's still not clinical, um, which is
Angel of
obviously a little
Chaos,
bit
mate.
of a problem.
Was
Yeah,
it Agent of Chaos? I can't remember.
agent, I think.
Yeah, not Angel.
Um, uh, yeah, he's one of them where like he'll score an insane goal when they really need one, but then in a game where they can't break down Luton, he's not really who you want in the 6 yard box because he's the kind of guy who gets you a random goal on the corner of the box
Yeah.
out of nothing.
Who
He's
you
not
want
really
there
the
is
striker you want.
you want you sort of Firmino, Jota, both those boys
Yeah,
in there. They're specialists at scoring against low blocks.
yeah.
That's what they do.
I mean, yeah,
This is
we're probably
probably
looking too much into it. To be fair, like we're
yeah,
probably
over
like,
analysing because we haven't watched the game and we're trying to
yeah.
compensate
I
for that.
mean, yeah. I think basically, the fact that they created that many expected goals suggests they probably did a decent job. They just had Nunez on the pitch, who is liable to fucking it sometimes, and they just probably got a bit unlucky.
Yeah,
Um,
pretty well-rounded civilization, I'd say. And final game, I believe, there's one more. Oh yes, there is one
yes,
more. There is definitely
big
one
one,
more.
big funny one. Uh,
I
yeah,
mean,
Spurs.
we can talk about it, but what do we say about it? That's the thing.
It's kind of like it's kind of like too much. There's kind of like loads to say, but at the same time, anything you do say is a bit irrelevant because it was just one of those weird games which will never
Yeah.
apply to anything ever again.
I haven't watched the highlights. I haven't. All I know is that Spurs got fucked by a couple red cards, and then the game was crazy.
Yeah,
Didn't
it was kind of just hilarious.
did
So
Jackson score a
Spurs,
hat trick in this one?
yeah, worst hat trick I've ever seen. I've never seen a player play that badly and score 3 goals like ever. Um,
Fair enough.
so Spurs started the game well. They got an early goal, and then Chelsea kind of got back into it, and they had like I think they had 1 or maybe 2 goals disallowed by VAR for offside. So Chelsea like properly, firmly got themselves back in the game, and it was a really good game. Spurs were 1 up, and then Romero got a red card for like just a mental tackle. He probably could have been sent off before that as well. Like Spurs were really aggressive in the tackle. Um,
Shit.
they could have had a doggy flew into a tackle as well, like off his feet, and got a yellow for it, not a red. But then eventually Romero did get a red card, and then Spurs kind of like remained almost comfortable. They kept their high line.
Yeah.
They were playing like their high line ridiculously high still, regardless of being one man down. And Chelsea were like really flustered. Um, they oh yeah so yeah Chelsea got it back to 1-1, but they were a man up, and then it was kind of a bit back and forth. Tottenham were holding their own really well, and then they got the second red card, and then it's like, right, Chelsea have just got to take the game now. It's a free hit, um, but I
Was
think
it a
Tottenham,
Doji getting another yellow? Was it?
yeah, Doggy got a second yellow,
Ah,
um, and but yeah, Tottenham kept playing their high line ridiculously high, like on halfway.
mm,
Um, and so they had 2 red cards. Madison had gone off injured. Van de Ven had gone off injured, who they rely on a lot for pace when they play the
shit.
high line. Yeah, mate. Madison and Van de Ven, I think, are both going to be out for when we play them at the end of the month.
Tottenham are
Um,
done. That's them
yeah,
done.
I think they're really going to struggle now, in terms of their squad. But yeah, so Van de Ven went off, and they really rely on his pace for the high line to work. So they were retaining this massively high line,
Yeah.
but for about 10 minutes, it worked really well. They played the offside trap really well, and Chelsea kept going through on goal, kept being pulled back for offside, and then they were just flustered. You had like Gallagher was like really trying really hard to grab the game, but he just was like trying too hard, and his balls were going out for throw-ins. And for a minute, you're thinking Chelsea are absolutely bottling it, like they're shitting their pants.
Yeah.
Uh, and but then eventually, basically, Tottenham, while they looked good and they were kept themselves in the game with the high line, um, Chelsea were really flustered. Eventually, they were at the same time giving away like 2 good chances a minute. Like it was high risk, high reward, and Chelsea eventually got the second goal, 2-1 up, and then yeah, it kind of continued like that. Tottenham kept trying to get back into it. They had 1 goal disallowed when it was 2-1
Oh well.
for offside,
Yeah.
and then Son kind of went through on goal, but the defender was kind of on him, so it wasn't like clear cut, but it forced a good save. Like they could have got back in the game. They could have got it back to 2-2. To be honest, like it was actually really impressive from Tottenham. Like it was kind of impressive. It was also kind of a bit confusing. I think they were down to 9. They almost got back into the game. It was impressive. Like they retained their intensity. They absolutely had Chelsea flustered, but at the same time, they ended up losing the game 4-1. If it was a team more clinical than Chelsea, they probably would have gone behind a lot earlier.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and eventually, obviously, they just gave away way too many chances. But yeah, they almost got themselves back into the game. But yeah, it was fucking weird. It was just fucking weird. Like
So what did we score that game? I think I was a 2-1. Was I?
you went 2-1 Spurs, I went 2-2. So I think
Ooh.
yeah, both expected goals. I
Yeah.
mean, predictions go out the window when you have 2 red cards in like 60 minutes or something, really, don't they? So yeah, we
Yeah.
both got nothing out of it.
Well, it sounds
Um,
like generally, like I think a lot of Spurs fans are doing this at the moment on social media. Is if you were to take the game for what it was when it was 11 men versus 11, within the 90 minutes, 11 men versus 11, Tottenham did look the better side. and looked like they were
Probably,
probably going to win the game, which I
probably.
guess is pretty much what we were thinking.
Yeah, they've obviously been the better team this season.
Yeah,
But
but
to be fair, when they were when Chelsea were 1-0 down, they did get themselves back into the game. It was just classic Chelsea. It's not like they actually looked like the worst team. So when it was 1-0 down, 11 versus 11, Chelsea didn't actually look the worst team. It's just the same problem they've always had, where they can't create chances or finish chances. Um, so it was kind of like, I think Spurs fans telling themselves that they would have won that game had they not had the red cards is maybe a bit optimistic, because Chelsea were really getting themselves back into the game, and like I said, had a couple of disallowed goals. Um, so yeah, I don't know. It was
so
like
perhaps
Chelsea.
Spurs maybe not as good as everyone thought, and
Well, I
Chelsea
think
probably slightly better than people thought, and that kind of resulted in an on the pitch when it was 11 versus 11 as a fairly even game.
I
And
think so.
then
Yeah, I think based on the first half hour, you would say it was quite even. But the difference is Spurs got the goal and Chelsea couldn't fucking score, which is, to be fair, what a lot of people were saying about the game is that Spurs are scoring goals. Chelsea are really struggling to score goals, even when they kind of play well. But I think it wasn't dominant by Tottenham by any means, especially considering they were at home. Like, they weren't dominant by any means. And a lot of the praise for Tottenham that's coming out of the game is justified, because they went down to 9 and they played really well. Yeah, so yeah, the praise was justified in the context of them having 2 red cards, because they almost got themselves back in the game, and they played well, and they played very bravely, like keeping the high line and stuff. But yeah, before the red cards, it wasn't dominant by Tottenham by any means. It was pretty even. Um,
fair enough. Right, so should we toss up those points quickly and then we'll go through our predictions?
yeah, well, so you got 4 points,
Okay.
four uh, correct outcomes, no correct scores. I got 1 point.
Oh shit.
Man City,
Oh shit. Matt.
sad times.
Oh Matt. Oh Matt.
Yeah, I think the moral of the week is that I went for too many draws. To be honest, like, I hedged my bets too much.
Yeah, I think I might have tempted you into that a little bit because I remember when we were doing the predictions, I did say, well, there are some weekends where it's like 4-0 and everyone goes, what the
Yeah,
fuck's
I
happening?
mean, yeah, like I was just going with my gut, really. I was, like, while trends and stuff like that are important. Um, also, if you think a game's going to be 1-1, then you think a game's going to be 1-1 regardless of whether it, it doesn't actually happen that often, kind of thing. I don't know, like, if that's what
Yeah,
you see the
yeah,
game going as, then that's kind of what you should go with. But at the same time, often those games where you think it's going to be a draw and you think it's going to be really tight, often they are won in like one little moment, and those moments do actually happen quite often. So that's probably where I went wrong. But yeah, 1 point. So we are looking at 21-28. Yikes.
swinging.
Need to get myself back into it.
Hey, you're still in it. You're still in it, man.
Yeah.
Just thinking about how many weeks have we done so far? Have we done like that we've recorded? Is it 3 or 4?
So I've got 4 down here, but I don't know if there's a fifth one.
Well, what
Well,
we've actually got
going to
written down, I think, is just what we keep it as, basically.
20. Yeah, no, that's right. 4. Yeah.
Okay,
So this is fifth week.
that's pretty good then. I'm averaging 7 points game week. I'll take that. 7 out of 10.
Yeah, we have, like, this was the only one we've really had a stinker on.
Yeah.
And then we had the one really good week, and
Oh
then
yeah,
the
the
others
insane
were kind
week.
of mid. So
Did I get
we are
10 points in that
yeah, you
earlier
got
week?
10, I got
Oh,
9, 8. Yeah, you got a bunch of scores right that week.
that was good. All right,
Um,
let's try and keep it going. So I've got to try and maintain a 7 point average. So I need to get at least 7 out of 10 this week. and you've got to try and catch up. So you've got to get at least 10 out of 10 this week.
Well,
uh,
it can swing, can't it? Like it only takes
One bad
you
week from
getting,
me. Yeah.
like one bad week it can swing on at this point, unless I go much further behind.
All right. Okay.
But
So
we've got Wolves Spurs, which is a interesting one
yeah,
considering Wolves are away is a hard game, as we have learned.
indeed,
Um,
indeed.
and Spurs now have Romero, Udogie, Madison, Van de Ven, Richarlison all out, and that is on top of the injuries they already had, which are I think Solomon,
Mm.
um, Sessegnon, Perisic.
They're
I
not
think
gonna have
that's it.
anyone left, are they?
So yeah, they're really thin. They're playing Eric Dyer in defence. They're probably playing.
Oh, Matt's disappeared. Let's get him back. Do 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 do. Oh, I didn't even have to do anything. He's already back. So,
Just literally just closed the tab by accident.
so they're playing.
So they're probably against Chelsea. They finished the game with Højbjerg and Dyer in centre back, uh,
Oh,
Emerson Royale at left back, Porro at right back, um,
okay.
and then so they'll play Son up front. They'll probably play Brennan Johnson on the right, Kulusevski on the left, and then I don't know who they play attacking mid. Saar.
Wow.
Uh,
Okay, that's a lot to take in. So this is interesting now because if you'd have just told me Spurs lost 4-1 at home to Chelsea and you'd have told me Wolves lost 2-1 away at Sheffield United, they're now playing Spurs at home. Who's going to win? I'd have probably gone 1-1. But now, in the context of Spurs have lost half their team since Monday, apparently.
yeah,
Uh,
it does make it
looking at it,
interesting.
yeah, it does it because you don't know how they're going to perform after that. So you can look at
No,
trends and you can go, well, Spurs are generally on an uptrend, and they occasionally don't do well away from home. Um, kind of like that Crystal Palace game where they only just won 2-1. I would have probably said that was a good game to set a precedence for what's going to happen here. But then we're missing a lot of players that pulled Spurs over the line in that game. So I'm 1-1 still probably a fairly realistic answer because
I
Son
think
could always nick one,
that's
but
decent. Yeah, I think.
I'm going to say 2-1 Wolves, I think.
Oof. Yeah, I don't know. It is a hard one. I think, like, I still back Spurs to turn up. Just the way that they seem to be coached,
Hmm.
they've got a lot of belief, and like, I don't think the way they approach the game will change at all. It's just whether
I think that could
you know.
hurt them though, because if they're starting
Yeah,
Dyer
well,
and
that's the thing.
Phillips
Yeah,
and
personnel wise, can they cope with it?
Royal Flush at left back or whatever his name is, like as much as they're going to be still playing the same style of football and they're still going to be holding the ball and things, just the personnel on the pitch don't necessarily have the quality to come in there and
No.
dominate the opposition. So that's what
Yeah,
maybe it's ballsy to go for a 2-1 Wolves win. 1-1's probably a better suggestion,
I
but
think it's a good shout. It is a tough one.
I'm going
I've put a
slightly
bet
ballsy.
on I've put a bet on Wolves or draw
Ooh,
just because of the odds. The odds are good because of the injuries. Like the
yeah, the odds
odds
haven't
haven't.
caught up with the injuries yet.
Yeah, yeah. So the odds are quite good.
Okay.
So I think it is quite hard still because I do think Spurs will still turn up, and I still think like in terms of their attack, while they have lost Madison, who's very important, they've still got some really dangerous players. Um, but then Wolves are good defensively at home, especially.
All right, what are you thinking?
Um, ah, I might go for a 2-1 Wolves as well.
Okay, little copycat.
I'm thinking 1-1 or 2-1 as well. To be honest, they just seem likely because I can't see Wolves scoring loads of goals. Like can't see a 2-2 or anything like that, but I can see Tottenham scoring. But yeah, I'll go with 2-1 Wolves. I like that result. I'll be happy with that. Um, then we've got Arsenal, Burnley.
Am I allowed to change my previous result because you've copied me?
Sure.
No, I'm not doing it. That's no. I'll stick with my
Uh,
original. I'll stick with my.
alright.
I was gonna be just like, oh fuck it, I'll go 1-1 just to just just to be different, but um, and I did say I should probably listen to myself. And a minute ago, I said 1-1's probably a better result to predict, but I'm going ballsy, so there you go. Anyway, you said next game.
Arsenal Burnley.
Ooh, Arsenal at home.
Yeah,
I think a nice simple 3-0 will do Arsenal here.
yeah, I like that as well.
Don't dare say 3-0 as well.
I mean, it's kind of what I want to go for.
All right,
Um,
if you
I'll
say
go.
3-0, I'll change.
I'll go. I'll go 4.
Okay.
Uh, yeah. Excuse me.
Nothing, nothing. I was
Um,
celebrating that you didn't pick 3-0 because that's obviously the result it's going to be. So
obviously.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, there's not much to say about that really. Arsenal will just dominate.
Yeah.
Palace, Everton.
Palace, Everton. Wow. Palace at home, is it?
Yes.
Ooh. Ooh. You're gonna have to fill this time with noise because I'm in my own
Right.
head.
Palace, Everton.
Because you're looking at two teams there that are basically playing the same type of football, but they attack a
Yeah.
little differently.
Yeah. Whoa.
Palace at home, you
I think
can't. I can't. I don't think you can go for a loss with Palace at home versus Everton.
no. I can see this being one of those like 0-0, 1-1 situations, which could turn into one of those teams is going to nick it, but I can't really
It
decide which way it's going to
could.
go.
It could. I don't know. I'm feeling a little more bullish on Crystal Palace, to be honest with you. I mean, who scored? I mean, Eze's back in the side. Ayu's in the side. Edouard, sorry, in the side. And who comes back? Does Elise come back mid-November? Could be back. So I'm gonna say, oh, it's tough to go against Everton scoring, but I want to say 2-0 Palace again.
Really locking that in.
I don't know.
I'm
That's the
going to
thing.
go. I'm going to go 1-1. 1-1 absolutely fucked me last week, but I'm doing it again.
So I'll back Everton to score. I'll say 2-1 Palace.
Okay.
And you're going 1-1 again, are you?
Yeah.
Oh, risky game, Matt. Risky game.
I know. United Luton. So could
Oh,
be a
this is going
United
to
at home.
be a first Luton away win. So yeah, United are probably going to do what they've done consistently and play like shit, but they will probably still win. So with that in mind, I'm going to say the result is going to be probably 2-1 United. Pretty boring, but
Yeah. It's not fair, man. You was locking the good results before me.
one.
Um,
Last couple, the first couple of weeks we did it, I went second. I can go back to
fair.
going second if you want, because it gives me more time to think and
No, that's
formulate
all right.
my
That's
opinions.
all right.
Because I don't know, is that a
Um,
good result to go for? Because United have had a few 1-0s. Luton don't score that many goals
yeah,
away.
I'm kind of just thinking whether I think Luton will score or not. I think United will score 1 or 2 goals, and then I'm just thinking, do Luton score or not? Um, do I see United controlling it? I think I do, but Luton will cause them problems. I reckon. What did you go 2-1? Ah,
Mm.
uh,
The good one, apparently.
uh,
It's a very boring prediction 2-1 because you're basically saying, I think this team's going to win. I don't think there's going to be a lot of goals.
I might go 3-1 United.
That's a
I
good
kind of
shout.
want to go United, but I think they scored quite a few. They obviously lost in the Champions League in the week, but they scored
Yeah.
quite a few goals. I do think, yeah, they are shit, but like I don't know. I feel like the last couple of weeks they've seemed to have been maybe slightly more cohesive.
I don't know. I
Um,
feel like Old Trafford could get a bit toxic if they don't play well in this one, and that could
hamper them. But we'll have to see next game because
Bournemouth, Newcastle.
already an hour 15 into this. Bournemouth at home, is it?
Yes.
Okay. Bournemouth haven't really shown anything recently for us to believe that they're going to stop Newcastle here.
No.
They've scored against City. I backed them to score against City, but I don't think that means much when you lose by 6.
Yeah, I think I can see them scoring. I think I might go. I might go for a 2-2.
Oh, Matt. I
Yeah.
think I'm going to go for 4-0 Newcastle.
Oof.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Batter in. All right, Villa Fulham.
We should talk
I'm
about
going for I'm
Villa.
going for the clean sheet.
Well, before we talk about Villa Fulham, should we quickly discuss last night's game against AZ Alkmaar? Nice 2-1 win.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, we saw probably what we're going to see a lot this season, where, well, maybe not even a lot, but the way the game played out, I think we'll see a few more times this season where we get a decent side, clinical side on the counter, who hit us for one before we manage to score any goals, and we're going to be chasing the game. But what I really like about us so far is this year already we've come back to win from a losing position twice, I believe, if not 3 times. We've at least come back from losing positions to not lose 3 times already this season, and we've won twice from those 3 games. So it just shows a real mentality shift. I think we spoke about this in a recent pod, but I've not been through the stats to check, but I don't think we did that even many times last season. Never mind the years before that.
No.
It's a very underrated. Like, if we don't lose a game where we've started off losing, it's usually like an
Yeah.
emphatic draw, and it's only emphatic because it happens rarely.
Yeah.
So just to see that from us,
Yeah. We definitely got something a bit different about us, haven't we?
yeah,
Where we're controlling games regardless of what is happening in terms of like the
yeah,
scoreline.
the game
Like
state isn't affecting our gameplay essentially.
yeah, like we go a goal down, and it doesn't mean that we suddenly can't keep the ball and we suddenly don't know what the fuck we're doing. Like
Yeah,
we go a goal down, and we just get back on with plan
yeah,
A.
and it's worked great every time so far.
Yeah,
That
um,
Wolves game probably should have been a win as well. If you were looking at us in this position now, saying, well, we did win that game against Wolves, and now we've just lost this game against Nottingham Forest, this loss wouldn't look anywhere near as bad because you'd have
no,
seen, what is it, like 4 or 5 wins in a row before that, home and
yeah,
away, scoring goals, coming back from behind, dominating from the start, showing that we can play in many game states against many different opposition in various different ways. So I'm just really excited to see what we can do against Fulham now, given that context. Watkins again netting a winner late on. That'll be great for his confidence and morale going forward. Very strong
yeah. I
lineup.
think yeah, few of the rotated players had good games. Seems like
Yeah, Longley was very unfortunate not to score. There
yeah,
was that.
Tielemans had a good game.
Yeah, Tielemans was decent. Diego Carlos finally got a goal as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, if the corners, do you think maybe the 10 unconverted corners against Nottingham Forest might have played on their minds a bit in
pissed
training?
someone off. Yeah,
So they've just been Austin McPhee's just been like drilling them all week. This is how we score from corners,
yeah,
and then
probably.
that's going well. We would have scored 2 from corners in that game, but unfortunately, due to the strange rule of if a shot is on target and a defender blocks it or intervenes, then that counts as one action. A shot
Is this
or a
the long
deflection.
lay?
Yeah. And
Yeah,
so that ball rolls out to Bailey. So even though the defenders redirected it
yeah. Well,
marginally, it
I've seen
still
that
counts as
they received
offside.
an apology for it.
Did they?
Yeah.
Villa?
After the game, yeah, the refs apologized. Said they made a mistake.
Because when
Actually,
this was live, the explanations that were given were basically that there's a very sort of fine not subjective, but fine detail when it comes to offside that basically says, if a shot was fired on target and that then gets intercepted, deflected out, that
Mm.
still counts as one movement. So you can't say like shoot the ball against the defender and have a guy stood well offside waiting for anything that bounces off the defender in between him and the goal, right? That's what I think that law intends to circumvent, is basically people just hitting the ball really hard against opponents, hoping that it bounces to the right side and then an offside player can
Yeah.
just run with it. But the
Yeah.
thing is, in that situation, it wasn't. And apparently, if the shot's not on target, then it also isn't offside, which is a
Yeah.
very strange. I don't know if
There's a
that's
weird distinction.
just,
Yeah.
yeah. So if that is the case, if that is the rules, then Bailey was offside, quite rightly.
Yeah.
But
Well,
if it's not, then the apology is quite right. But why that decision was made in the game, if that's just simply not the rules, I don't understand.
yeah. Well, yeah. Tielemans said in his post-match that that the refs came to the squad and apologized for making a wrong decision. Um,
Hmm.
so I mean, I guess maybe there's you've got several referees making a decision when something goes to VAR or whatever.
Yeah,
Maybe there's differences of opinions and stuff like that. So different interpretations of the same rule.
yeah. It's just a strange one because if you're thinking about where the defenders are, where the attacker is, and you just want to view it as soon as that ball's left Ollie's foot until it lands at Bailey's, you count that as one action. Then yes, he's offside. If you count it as two because the defender's intervened, then he's not offside. Now, which one are you doing? Look at the rule set. Decide. It's not that difficult. Why
No,
they've made a seemingly wrong decision, even though there was justification given for the correct decision, I don't understand. Maybe there's a rule book they were reading from that's from a different competition, and they just got confused. I don't
yeah,
know,
I don't
but
know.
it's a strange one. On to the home game against Fulham, though.
Yeah,
What is going to happen
um,
here?
I've got us down for finally a fucking clean sheet.
It would be nice. I mean, Fulham aren't scoring a lot of goals.
No,
They might have to do a bit of a Luton here and hit it off Konza's head over Emery's head. Um, but yeah, you wouldn't expect them to score given their attacking displays so far and are relatively
no.
strong defensive displays regardless. They're
Yeah,
not.
they've got the capability. It's like they'll probably, knowing the way we play, they'll probably break the offside trap and get some kind of chance, half chance,
Yeah,
at
we're
some
kind of
point.
playing like a Liverpool originally did when sort of Jurgen Klopp first came in, where it's sort of our defense is good because our game plan's good because the defense is
Yeah,
playing its role within a system.
yeah,
If you were to isolate the defense and just say, well, how successful they are in each of these things, then maybe
yeah.
you
Not
wouldn't say it's a great
not particularly.
defense. But as
No,
part of
but
a
yeah, it
wider
obviously
system, it's great. So
works in in the wider system. So yeah, no, I wouldn't be surprised if they scored. I'm like kind of not surprised when anybody scores against us just because of the way we play.
yeah,
But the thing with the way we play is that it allows us to control the game and create a load of chances. So I think we'll score. I'm going to go 2-0 because I think Fulham are quite sound, quite tight. To be fair,
yeah, they are. They are.
we're very good at home, so I think we'll score a couple of goals and I'm going to back us for a clean sheet,
Yeah,
hopefully.
I think you should
So
back us
two
for a
nil
clean sheet because the main things that you tend to find trip us up when people are playing balls over the top is either a striker who's incredibly good at timing his run or very pacey wingers. Those are the things that can catch us out because the pacey wingers are already too far ahead if we want to catch him, and the striker who's timing his runs incredibly well doesn't give a shit about how good our offside trap is because he's just going to change the timing of his run and make it
Yeah,
perfect. But they don't have that. They don't have super pacey wingers. They
yeah.
have
That's the thing with Fulham. I'm looking at
Wilson
them
and
and
Willian.
think there's not a threat that I'm really that worried about.
Yeah, and if they're starting
Um,
Jimenez or who, I don't know.
yeah,
It's
not
just
worried.
yeah.
Who have
From an
they got?
attacking
They've got
perspective,
Vinicius,
Vinicius is
Muniz.
all right. Muniz, I've never even seen him play.
Yeah, like definitely not worried about their strikers. Wilson and Willian, they've got the potential to score a goal on the break if I don't know if it comes
You need
together
a lot of
for them. But
space though. I just think Dean's going to be
Yeah,
perfectly happy with having Harry Wilson in front of him, who's going to want to cut inside
yeah,
and isn't particularly pacey. And he's going to have Torres there for the support. And I think either one of Cash or Konza can absolutely deal with Willian fine.
yeah,
So I'm just really. Oh, can I say what? Even though we didn't keep a clean sheet, and he didn't go like bombing on, playing like bloody Trent. Konza at right back, when he was given that distinction as being a right back and not a half centre back, half right back,
yeah.
was so fun to watch with the ball at his feet.
Really?
Like, yeah, just he looked so comfortable taking players on, running with the ball, moving forward, playing passes forward. Like, you can tell he just plays exactly his job role. He's quite
Yeah,
talented enough to do nearly anything he wants on the ball to an extent.
yeah,
Um, but he doesn't do it for the sake of the team. Like, it's
yeah,
just it's yeah.
yeah.
I'm
He's
really
when
excited to see
you
what
watch him
he
play,
can
and it's like
become.
you can just tell by like his body language that he's got that confidence about him, where he just fully believes in anything that's happening on the pitch. Like he backs himself in any situation, whether he's got to play it right back and he's got to bomb it down the right, or whether he's got to defend against like Salah. He kind of like at the moment he's got that confidence where he just backs himself to do it, whatever his task is.
Yeah, he kind of reminds me of Ben White when he's playing at right back, but just
I
a
see that.
little
Yeah,
more almost silky on the ball, just a little more
yeah,
technical, which really
yeah.
excites me because like, what if we try him at 6 sometime? Could he? I think why not? Why couldn't he
Well,
play
it's
there?
interesting, because not that you should base anything on Football Manager, but um,
You love
when
talking
we
about this.
when we first signed him, obviously the first thing you do is you go on Football Manager and you check him out. And Football Manager had him listed, so he was probably how old was he? Like 21,
I think it
something?
was no. When we signed him, he would have been like
22?
23, 24, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
But yeah, he Football Manager had him as centre back slash defensive mid. Um, like clearly, I don't know whether he'd actually played as a defensive mid at Brentford or what, or whether it's just his attributes. But like, yeah, I think he's definitely got the attributes to
Yeah.
play there. He'd
The
be,
only thing we don't really see from him, which we I mean we do to an extent, but we don't see it in the kind of volume that it's needed to be seen, is his ability to just control a game. Like, he has got a very good pass on him. He can play a long and short pass quite comfortably. Shown even more so when he did play right back. But to sit in those kind of tight spots and consistently
yeah,
not lose the ball is something that's kind of very specific to playing that role at a very, very high level that you can't really show
yeah,
unless you're given the opportunity.
yeah,
So it's yet to be seen if he definitely can play there. But honestly, I'd trust him to play pretty much anywhere not in the forward line at the moment. Like,
yeah,
I'd play
yeah.
him
Me
at
too.
left mid, to be honest. Like,
Yeah, let's see that.
just Jones plays Konza at left mid, and his first game in charge for the Villa, sacked in his second game.
Yeah.
But yeah,
uh,
so you reckon
so
2-0.
I've gone 2-0. Yeah.
Um, fuck it, 4-0.
Ooh, hope so.
Yeah,
Um,
I should go 4-1 or 5-0 just for the extra bonus point. But then, what if it just is 4-0? That's the question. That's the tough thing to see.
I think.
I don't think
Well,
Leno would concede that many goals in a game.
no, yeah. I don't want to offer my input. I don't want to influence your decision, but I do.
Yeah,
But I do think Fulham are tight. To be fair.
they can be quite tight, but I'm all right. You have swayed me a bit. I'm going 3-0.
Oh shit! The hell.
What?
Well, I was just like, I don't know. You were like 4-0, 5-0, and then you're like 3-0. It's like, oh,
Oh, you
all
swayed
right.
me. See, you said something. You
Yeah.
swayed me.
Well,
Yeah.
it's gonna be 4-0 now, and you're gonna punch me in the face.
Yeah. Well, I
Um,
don't think that's probably wise because you might die. But let's not
all
talk.
right, big man.
No, no, not no. For God's sake. I didn't mean it like that. You know what I mean? Well, apparently you don't. But anyway, let's go on.
Right, yeah, we've got to wrap it up. Actually, we're taking ages about these. Who've we got? Brighton, Sheffield United.
Well, they're going to win, right? They're going to win. Yeah, they're going to
Yeah.
win.
Draw?
Oh no, I don't know about that. I think they're going to win. If they were playing the Kuragana and Anna, then I probably wouldn't think they're going to win. But they're not playing Kuragana and Anna. So,
No.
who are they playing? I wonder if I can put the Sheffield Wednesday midfield three into almost a single vowel sound just by being Scouse. What is it? Norwood. Um,
I don't even know.
yeah, I don't know either.
Oh, they've got Gustavo Hamer, who they signed from Coventry. He's quite good. And
Yeah, there's no way of
Souza.
doing that. Hey,
Souza.
Masuza. No, can't do it. It's not happening.
Oh,
Anyway,
God.
so what do we think the result's going to be? I don't think Sheffield United are going to score, but I think Brighton will score 4 goals. So it's a 4-0.
Jesus. Loves the 4-0s.
Yeah, but I got swayed away from
Oh,
them.
shit. Right. I'm going to go 2-1. No.
Instant
No.
regret. That's the
No.
definition of instant regret.
I'm going to go 3-0 Brighton. No, 2-0 Brighton. 2-0 Brighton.
Okay, I should technically be completely reversing my kind of prediction here because Brighton still haven't won, so I shouldn't change my prediction for what Brighton will do. And then Sheffield United have just won, so I should technically change my
Well,
prediction. But
yeah.
obviously, there's
It's more complicated
context
than that,
and
isn't it?
nuance into it. So
Yeah.
4-0 Brighton, and any more games?
Liverpool, Brentford.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say we don't really need to analyse too much into that Brighton Sheffield United game.
No.
But Brentford, Everton, did you say? Or Brentford, Liverpool?
Liverpool.
Liverpool.
Liverpool at home.
Liverpool at home. Ooh. This reminds me of the Forest game a lot, but Brentford are slightly better. Actually,
I'm going
a bit more than
3-0.
slightly better.
3-0 Liverpool.
I'm going to say 3-2 Liverpool.
Yeah, I think that's a good shout. I'm kind of torn because I think Liverpool will bounce back after their bad result in Europe. I think Klopp will be furious, and they did rest a lot of players. Like they will have a slightly rested team for the weekend game. So I think Liverpool will come out really strong. But in Mbeumo, they'll be playing Simicast at left back. No Robertson. And Mbeumo going to be a problem.
Yeah, he does consistently seem to be a bit of a problem, doesn't he?
Yeah, especially this kind of like when he's got a bit of space. But I think I'm gonna back Liverpool to bounce back really hard.
I might take a 4-point hit in FPL this week to make a double change.
Really?
Because I'm thinking of bringing Saka out.
Ooh,
And
against
then,
Burnley.
well, it's not necessarily because I think Saka's not going to play well against Burnley. It's because I think there's a chance he doesn't even play. And if he does play, and Arsenal can't figure their attack out, I think he's going to lose me points overall compared to if I picked a different player. But there's something I'll discuss with myself in more detail.
I think long term might be an alright shout if Arsenal continue to look shaky in attacking terms, but I wouldn't do it against Burnley.
Mbeumo could be that guy because I mean
he's a good shout for FPL, definitely.
Yeah. The thing is,
he's on penalties as well.
They are built and are known for essentially causing big guys problems, and Liverpool are a big guy at home, a lot of confidence, a lot of ball. Brentford, they've just been in a very, very topsy-turvy game against West Ham. They're probably going to take some lessons from that and think, alright, Liverpool are going to be on top in this game most likely, but we can at least try and catch them on the counter and get a couple goals and see what happens.
Really. Right. West Ham, Nottingham Forest.
Oh, so this is the West Ham real OGs versus the West Ham wannabes, right? So this is an interesting game because you know how we mentioned earlier the Brentford West Ham game is going to set a precedent for what might happen.
Yeah.
In these games.
Yes.
So I can't say anything else other than West Ham 3-2 Nottingham Forest.
You going for that?
Yep, that's mine. That's done. Locked in.
Nice. Okay. I'm going 2-0 West Ham.
Solid.
Yeah, I think Forest are significantly worse away from home, so don't know if they'll really turn up. And then we've got Chelsea Man City.
Oh, well, obviously, Chelsea coming off a 4-1 win, they're going to be a massive danger to City.
Said no one ever.
Yeah. Oh, it's tough though,
It's a
isn't
bit
it?
of a funky one because Chelsea against Spurs, they struggled to get the ball in the net, but they looked good. Like they
Yeah.
controlled space on the pitch well and stuff.
You kind of have to look at, I
Um,
think, Brighton to get a good sense of what's going to happen in this game. I just think Chelsea won't be. They won't hold as much belief that they can get something out of this game as Brighton did.
no,
So I think we could be looking at like a 3-1, 4-1. I do like the
I'm
four
gonna go.
ones, and because I've given so many fours, I'm gonna have to say 3 and 3-1.
Oh, okay. So I'm thinking 4-1 or 4-2.
Oh, you're going for a bonus point.
4-2 seems ambitious because did Chelsea score 2 goals against City really?
Maybe they might get 2 players sent off.
um,
That's what it takes.
shit. No, I'll go 4-1. Seems a bit more sensible.
Okay.
Right. Well, that's it.
Is it?
So,
Will I get 7 points next week? What do you reckon? Based on your predictions, how many points will I get next week?
based on what I've gone with,
Yeah. If we take what yours is as right, how many points
right,
would I get?
you'd get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Okay. Shit, we've gone for a lot of the same results.
We have. I mean, it's one of those weeks where it's like last week. Last week there was a lot of games which were like 50-50s. This week's are a bit more obvious.
Yeah.
So we differed on the Palace Everton game. I went for a draw. You went for a Palace win. And Bournemouth Newcastle, I went for a draw. You went for a Newcastle win. They're the only games we actually differ on
All right.
Results.
Yeah,
Yeah, it might
so
hinge on the scores
won't
this week.
won't be a huge whiff of stinkers this week unless we both get all of these wrong, which I think will be hard to do. I think we should get a good amount of points this week.
Well, I think last week was a massive outlier in terms of unpredictable results, like Liverpool drawing, Villa losing, Chelsea beating Spurs. There was Everton Brighton drawing. Like there was some unpredictable, weird results in there.
Yeah,
So
I think this week's going to come down to bonus points potentially.
yeah, I think correct scores is where the money's going to be made this week. Yeah,
Indeed. We won't talk too
right.
much about FPL. We'll just say get your Brighton players in, I guess. I don't know. Why are you even here still? Like it's been an hour and 40 minutes of us chatting bollocks, and you're still sitting here listening to us. Well, you're obviously not. I'm actually saying this to no one, but that's why I'm so confident in saying fuck you, because you shouldn't be here anymore. You should be watching something more interesting. Hour and 40 minutes you've been here watching this shit.
Just really
Anyway,
wanted to-
bye.